Cool.
Hey there, welcome to the DFS Build MLB edition. I am Kevin Roberts, joined with Taylor Smith, getting ready to go over the DraftKings main slate. The goal here is to help you win, kind of break down the top pitchers, the best stacks, and just point you in the right direction. If you want finalized pitcher picks and stacks that you can trust, you can head to our Patreon, just $5.99 a month to get access to that every single day, as well as our NBA picks, UFL picks, MMA picks. Already got MMA up for the week. UFL will be following shortly, and we have NBA picks up for today as well. $5.99 for all of that every single month. A little bit of a deal. Actually, yesterday's core was in the winning lineup for one of our Discord members, and you also get access to our Discord when you sign up there. All right, let's get into it. MLB, quite a big slate to dive into. First game, we go game by game, looking at the matchups and the pitcher and stacks. Griffin Canning taking on the Mets, or Phillies rather, Godspeed. And we have Christopher Sanchez taking on the Mets. So don't like Griffin Canning here. Sanchez has a really nice K rate this year. If it reverts to last year, I don't know how excited I should be. But he does come in with the top 5 projection. The Ks are there right now. I guess Sanchez looks pretty good. I'm okay with that. But other than that, I think the offenses look pretty good on both sides.
I'm not really on either offense in this game. I don't really see the need to play the Mets against Sanchez. Like, I think he'll be somewhat owned, but I would just rather play him. I think we're getting a decent little discount on him. He's more of a ground ball guy than a strikeout guy. The Mets do hit the ball on the ground quite a bit. So it's a good spot for him in that sense. He should get some easy innings and things like that. Strikeouts will be a bonus. I'm not expecting him to do what he did in the last game, but 8,700. Not the greatest pitching slate, so I don't mind taking shots on him, but that's kind of it. I'm not really in on anything else in this game.
I think the Mets against Canning are certainly in play. They come in with
the Mets.
The Phillies. I meant against Canning. 4.23 implied run total. Not really something that stands out with the other offenses on the slate. I'll agree with you. These are not teams that I'm putting, into the upper tier here of teams. But I think the Mets or the Phillies, I keep saying the Mets, but the Phillies against Canning are in play. I think if I was going to play an offense from this game, that would be the one I'd go to. But yeah, I agree. Not really the park that we want to attack offenses in. And the Sanchez I do like, just not really one of my top 3 guys for the slate, but certainly in play. All right, Andrew and Andre Pañate against the Braves here, and the Cardinals take on Nathan Wiles. So where you stand here?
Pretty much nothing. It's a bullpen game for Atlanta. Don't really love picking on those in general. Like, they're going to see a new pitcher essentially every time they come up. So, like, I guess you can make a case for St. Louis, but don't really see the need. It's a big slate. Not dying to do that. Don't really want to pick on I don't know how you say it. I think it should be Payante, but I've heard people say Palante, which seems white.
So it seems
wrong to me. But Atlanta's kind of perked up lately, but he's more of a ground ball guy, right-hander. I think Atlanta against lefties is a little bit more interesting in general. So this is kind of a stay away. I'm not really dying to get to anything here at all.
I slightly disagree. The Braves are one of my favorite stacks of the slate. 4.66 implied run total. They've been heating up. This year alone, 171 collective ISO to lefties, only an 18% K rate. Last year, 10% walk rate against lefties. Just, obviously it's the side of the plate that he struggles more against. They have a lot of good lefties to throw at them, and they're getting better. So, yeah, I like the Braves. No interest in the Cardinals, really. Bullpen games are just kind of a stay away for me in general. All right, so White Sox and the Twins in Minnesota. This is obviously a nice park for hitting. Davis Martin takes on the Twins. You can kind of play both sides in a sense. Like, I'm not playing Davis Martin, but, like, you can certainly make a case to not play the Twins, but they do look solid here. I do like them. White Sox against Bailey Ober. Ober's only 6.9K. He's been bad, but it is the White Sox. So I definitely side with Ober on a really bad pitching slate. But if you want to leverage that, which you can, because he is 38% owned right now, I don't mind that. Like, the problem is the White Sox projected lineup looks quite bad.
Yeah, Ober is just, he hasn't been great this season, but he's kind of perked up. I think his numbers are just inflated by his disaster start in the first game of the season. But since then, he's been solid. Kind of a short leash. He hasn't thrown more than 84 pitches in a game, so I guess they're like slowly working him up. I think he had some kind of illness at the beginning of the year, but he's too cheap for who he is, and he's facing the White Sox. He's 6,900. I don't really see a lot of need to overthink it. Like, I just think that's pretty good chalk. Like, I think this might be an $800 to $8,500 pitcher that we're getting at a substantial discount. So I don't see an issue with it. Chicago's a horrible lineup. They strike out more than 24% of the time against righties. Very little power. I'm just going to play it. I'm not really playing the Twins. Like, I hope they're going to be owned because it's not a good lineup. They are they're without Matt Wallner. It's just very weak, all things considered. And I feel that they platoon, like, Edouard Julien may not play the whole game. They'll platoon guys like that, pinch hitting and stuff. So if people want to play the Twins, I understand why, but it's not for me on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the Twins. They're fine. They look good. But there's other offenses.
They don't really look good, is the thing.
Well, I mean, they're facing Davis Martin, and it's a hitter's park. So, like, I think because of those reasons, it's definitely okay to play them. They're just not like, they're not top 3 for me or anything because there's other offenses to prioritize on this slate. As far as Ober goes, the risk is baked into his price. He's 6.9K. The matchup is great. Like, you can certainly make a case against him. You can certainly stack up the White Sox if you want to. 38% is 38%, and he hasn't really been getting it done. But it's just like, where else are you going to go that you're feeling comfortable on the slate? I think Ober is the SP2. It's pretty obvious. And I'm okay eating that chalk. I just would get a sprinkling of the White Sox just in case. All right, Rockies against Chris Bubich here. Ryan Feltner on the other side. So, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, you can certainly stack up the Rockies for leverage if you want, but I don't really ever like to play them outside of Coors. This is a pitcher-friendly park. On the other side, you can play the Royals against Feltner for sure. I think they have a pretty good implied run total. Yeah, 4.94, one of the better ones of the slate. They're not like grading out as like top 3 for me right now, but I think the Royals look good, and I'm mostly here for the pitching though.
Yeah, I think Bubic is one of the better pitchers on the slate. He's sub 9K. He's been very good this season after moving back into the rotation after an impressive stint as a reliever last year. He's playing the Rockies away from Coors Field, which is kind of an auto play. They strike out a ton. They have no power. They have very few good hitters. They're striking out 38.7% of the time against lefties this season. This projected lineup is, to be exact. So, like, don't really see any need not to play Bubic either. Like, he's not expensive. He's a good pitcher overall. So that's more chalk I'm going to eat.
Yep.
Kind of tired of playing the Royals. They've been pretty underwhelming with the bats, but another good spot. The Rockies bullpen behind Feltner is horrible. So, like, Feltner himself is not bad, but, if they do a little bit of damage against him and then feast on the bullpen, doesn't matter to me how they do it. He can keep the ball on the ground, but the Royals do have a lineup that hits the ball in the air. Witt, Perez, India, Pasquantino, Michael Massey. They have good hitters, and they're pretty cheap. Like, Witt is expensive, and nobody else is even 4K except for Michael Garcia. So it's a cheap stack. It's a good stack and a good matchup. I'm reluctantly all about the Royals tonight.
Yeah, I do like the Royals. The thing I like the most here though is Bubic. Like, I'm not really worried about the ownership at all. It's just he and Ober just are the 2 best pitchers on this slate. Like, I don't want to ever go 100% on guys, but I'm going to be very, very exposed to both of them. Where I'm not playing them, I guess I'll have a little bit of interest in leverage stacks here with the Rockies and White Sox. That feels gross though. And honestly, what the projected lineup right now is like a 32% whiff rate against Bubic here. So, like, I don't know, man. There's just no real reason to go away from them. It's baseball. Things can blow up, and it can maybe not go great. But right now, those Bubic and Ober look really, really good. There's a game at Wrigley. Winds blowing out with a little bit of 5 mile per hour winds. Nothing too crazy to the point like where we have to go stack up Wrigley. And also the pitching is good with Dustin May and Shota Imanaga. So, like, I don't really want the pitching because the offenses are very, very capable. And the wind's not blowing out to the point where, like, this is like, the second coming of Coors or anything, but it's still the Dodgers and the Cubs. They're 2 very, very good offenses. I'm going to be like not super exposed to them because they're just other good teams in better spots. But, like, if they're flying under the radar, I don't mind going over the field on the Dodgers and even the Cubs here.
I am getting a truly insane amount of Dodgers right now. Imanaga is a good pitcher, but he was due for regression most of last year. He's a pretty extreme fly ball guy, which is not ideal at Wrigley when the wind is blowing out, even if it's semi-minor compared to like last week. But great lineup. Otani's back from the paternity list. Betts, Hernandez, Edman, Will Smith, even Pajes and Kike Hernandez, cheaper options. They're all righties except for Otani and Freeman. And Otani and Freeman have hit lefties just fine over the years. So as of now, the Dodgers are my top stack on the slate, kind of by a mile. I don't think people are going to really want to play them against Imanaga. And we don't often get the Dodgers at low ownership in a generally favorable hitting environment. So, you have to do some risky shit at pitching to do this. And I'm clearly doing that based on the lineups I'm looking at that have full Dodger stacks. We'll get to the pitcher that's in those lineups later. But it's just great. Like, I'm all about it. If they're going to be low owned, I'm happy to do it on this slate.
Yeah, I did not have them as one of my top stacks of this slate because they're facing a good pitcher and because the wind's not blowing out like crazy. But I'm with you as far as like, GPP for life. Like if the Dodgers unowned, they do have a solid implied run total. It's a really good tournament stack for sure. Anytime the Dodgers are low owned, we can certainly consider it. I don't mind the Cubs on the other side, but I'm with you. It's more about the Dodgers for me.
The Cubs are okay. Like, I don't think Dustin May is really good either. So, like, Chicago's decent. I'm just getting a lot more of the Cubs or a lot more of the Dodgers on the slate for whatever it's worth.
I think he's fine, but I just think that the Cubs are pretty darn good. So it doesn't I'm not really that concerned about Dustin May. I think they actually have the better matchup, like as far as like the pitchers they're facing.
Like, his strikeout rate against righties is like 18%. He has good control, but he doesn't really limit power. He doesn't really limit power against lefties either. Fly ball guy at Wrigley doesn't keep the ball on the ground. I don't really see a lot to like about his skill set in terms of like avoiding stacking against him. So I'm just going to do it and we'll see what happens.
Well, stacking up the Dodgers is always a good decision. All right, on we go. Jays against the Astros. We have Chris Bassett, who is a god now, apparently, for some reason. Doesn't even have an ERA over 1, I don't think. And then the Jays against Ronel Blanco, who is not a god. Blanco is an okay real-life pitcher, but the numbers so far in 2025 don't look amazing. Plus, the Jays do not strike out. So I don't really want to attack him, but I also don't want to play him against an offense that doesn't whiff. On the other side, Bassett, I guess because the pitching slate sucks, you could certainly make a case to keep Bassett in your player pool, so I will. But I just don't think he's a priority. I think I'm really going to be overexposed to Bubic and Bailey.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of Bassett. The Astros are striking out more this season, like losing Bregman, losing Tucker, replacing him with Christian Walker, who strikes out a ton. Brendan Rodgers strikes out a ton. Cam Smith is striking out quite a bit. Yainer Diaz will strike out on you. Isaac Paredes, another guy who's like not super stingy with the strikeouts. So it's not the horrible matchup the Astros have been in years past. And 9K is a lot for Bassett against them, given Bassett's track record, but he's been an ace against righties for a long time. The Astros have a grand total of 1 lefty in the lineup, and it's Yordan Alvarez. So like that's scary, but not horrifying. I'll get a little bit of Bassett if I'm paying up. I think Toronto's an okay stack. It's just not a very imposing lineup either. Ronel Blanco, not really someone I generally avoid. I stack against him most of the time, but on this slate, the Jays are kind of a secondary stack, and then I'm not really getting to anything on the Houston side at all.
Yeah, that's just how I feel about both offenses here, and just like the pitching. Like Bassett is fine. He just doesn't make like my top 4 pitchers. Like he's right there knocking on the door. Just feels a little bit expensive, and I would imagine he's probably due for some regression at some point. Not sure it's going to necessarily come here in a kind of a pitcher-friendly park, but just not really on my radar as a guy like I have to go get. But I'm fine with him if you do land on him. Bailey Falter takes on the Halos, and he just might falter indeed. The Pirates heading to the Angels here to take on, or Jose Soriano is taking on the Pirates. So Pittsburgh gets a little bit of a park upgrade here. Soriano is an okay pitcher who can get some strikeouts, not really striking out the left side of the plate so far this year. And I mean, last year he wasn't either. I don't know. I think because the state of the pitching slate, I feel like Soriano is potentially a high ceiling guy that we can consider. Keep him in the player pool because I think he's only like 8.3. Like right there with like Christopher Sanchez, like just a solid option we can turn to if we're not going to play a ton of Bubic or Ober. But really for me, the big thing is the Halos. I just want to fire up the Halos. I think they're in an awesome spot here. This park has been good for hitting. And they have a ton of righty power to throw at Falter, who is not somebody we should be afraid of.
Yeah, I love Soriano. I think it's a pretty good price on him. He's got okay strikeout stuff, mostly against righties. He's an elite ground ball pitcher. And the Pirates are another lineup with McCutchen and Reynolds, Tommy Pham, Adam Frazier. All these guys hit the ball on the ground quite a bit. The scariest bat is obviously O'Neill Cruz. Soriano strikeout stuff against lefties is pretty weak. So if he can navigate Cruz, I think he's in line for a good start. I will have him in quite a few lineups. Not a core play. Like I think the Bubic Ober combo is reasonable enough to just build around that, but
Right.
I will have quite a bit of Soriano. And then I do like the Angels a lot against Falter, just kind of a mid lefty, not going to strike a lot of people out, doesn't really keep the ball on the ground too well, especially against righties. So Angels righties, Trout, Rengifo, Adele, Ohapi, Soler, Ward, like those are all legitimately pretty good hitters with power. So Angels look like a good stack to me on this slate. I will have them a lot. And then kind of like the Astros, like the entire Pirate side of the game is pretty much a fade for me.
Yeah, just make sure when you're stacking guys up like this, we don't like completely ignore guys like Adele or guys that are like batting low in the order, just because I feel like this happens a lot where we're on a stack, but then we don't get to the guys, batting 7 through 9, or we don't get to a guy who just is not owned at all and we're just firing up all the chalk guys. So Halos look awesome. Total agreement there. What was I going to say about, I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. I feel like we're inching closer towards the punt at pitcher you're talking about, and I fear that it might be Patrick Corbin.
Correct.
All right, more on that in a bit. All right, moving on here. We got the Rays and the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Zach Littell taking on Arizona. Whoa, it's going to be tough for the Zachy boy. He doesn't look good. Low strikeout rate against lefties. Very low this year, specifically 13.5%. Giving up a shit ton of hard contact and power. So Arizona looks good. Like he is a good pitcher, but it's not looking great right now. So 210 collective ISO. They don't strike out. They do get walks. Like it just all around looks bad for him. Certainly don't want to play him. I do have interest in Arizona. On the other side, Brandon Pfaadt taking on the Rays. Don't really love Pfaadt. I think he's okay. But I don't like really necessarily want to go out of my way to pick on him either. Not like I'm afraid to pick on him whatsoever. I just the Rays don't really call to me here. I think it's Arizona and pretty much nothing else here.
I have a little bit of thought. I think I prefer Soriano in that same range, but Thought's okay. Tampa Bay is not a very powerful offense. The only issue is they have 5 lefties in the projected order, and Thought against lefties is kind of just average, a little worse. So not the greatest spot for him. I think he's fine to keep in a player pool, not anyone I'm building around. And then I think the Tampa Bay mini stack is okay. Like Thought could get a little bit of ownership on this slate. I think the lefties would be the priorities. Chandler Simpson, if he hits leadoff, is an awesome value. Like maybe the fastest player in the whole sport. So he's an automatic steal or two if he gets on. Brandon Lau, pretty good power hitter. Junior Caminero, stuff like that. I don't mind. Jonathan Aranda is pretty underrated in general. So even from the right side, I don't mind that. Arizona, it's okay. I'm generally under on them whenever they're at home. Like their park is not as hitter friendly as it was before they put the humidor in there. So it's fine. I understand Littell is vulnerable against lefties. So Carroll by himself looks good, but the full stack is not really my favorite on this slate.
Yeah, they're not necessarily all the way up there, but they are close to being all the way up there. I think they're pretty solid. All right, Brewers and the Giants in San Francisco. Jose Quintana taking on the Giants. With the park factor there, I think Jose Quintana at 8K is fine. The Giants are not a fun matchup. 176 collective ISO. They do have some strikeouts there. Trusting Quintana is not really something I like to do, but I think he's in play. Jordan Hicks going up against the Brewers. Certainly lean Brewers here for sure. They got a lot of lefties to throw at him. The only problem is they get a park downgrade. All the power is kind of suppressed by this park. So I think, anytime we have a game in San Francisco, you can consider the pitching. I think because of that, Hicks is technically in play, but I'm not on him. I'd go Quintana and probably, sprinkling of either offense is fine, but just not a spot I love.
I don't mind a Giants mini against Quintana. Pretty low strikeout lefty. He's a good real life pitcher, but not really someone who's going to blow you away. So like a Chapman, Adames, Ramos 3-man, I think looks pretty good. Hicks, he's had the stuff for a while. He hasn't really put it together. Keeps the ball on the ground pretty well. Strikeout stuff's mainly against righties, though, and the Brewers do have quite a few lefties in there. So I'm not really getting to Milwaukee, but I think Hicks is okay, but I just prefer other pitching on this slate. And then I don't really want to pick on Hicks either with the Brewers.
Yep, fair enough. All right, last game of the night where your SP1 resides. We have
SP1.
we have Rangers. Yeah, we have. I'm putting it on you. We have the Rangers visiting the Athletics. The Athletics look amazing. I know Corbin Knight doesn't ever go as planned, but by God, they have a 200 collective ISO, and Corbin isn't good. And this park it's a hitter's park. So I think the Athletics look really, really good. The only downside is they are going to be owned. On the other side, we have the Rangers against Osvaldo Albido. The Rangers actually look pretty good here too. Like if everyone's going to be on the Athletics and some of these other stacks that we've been talking about, Texas actually pops a little bit. They look interesting. I do still prefer the Athletics side. Now, having said that, Corbin is 6K and the Athletics do have strikeouts in their lineup. So if you're like Taylor here and you want to, number one, fade one of the chalkier offenses, which I've not looked at stack ownership or anything, but I'm assuming that the Athletics are going to be fairly owned. You can gain instant leverage if he hits, and he's only 6K, so you could save a ton of cash on your second pitcher here and go get your Dodgers or what have you. So why don't you sell us on Corbin beyond that?
That's pretty much it. It's kind of a double whammy. Like you get the leverage on the field that's playing Oakland because he's 6K. You get the ability to pay up for the Dodgers on the other side, which people aren't going to be able to do if they're paying up at pitching. So I'm not like endorsing Corbin as an amazing play. I only have him in about 10% of lineups right now, which is over the field, but not an overwhelming amount. Just if you want a fully punt pitcher, I think that's a pretty good way to do it. That gets you leverage on the field. I will hedge that obviously with some A's stacks like Rooker, Langeliers, the righty power hitters. It's not the greatest righty power lineup anymore now that they have like Soderstrom from the left side. Like the righties are kind of weak once you get past Rooker and Langeliers. So like I think that's part of what's selling me on Corbin a little bit. The Rangers are jumping off the page for me against Osvaldo Albido. They've kind of underperformed so far, but you're getting Marcus Semien at 3,100. You're getting Adolis Garcia at 4K, Josh Smith 3K flat, Wyatt Langford back in the lineup 4,400. Seager's only 4,300. Like this lineup is super cheap. We're used to paying like 6K for Semien and Seager, and we're getting them for like 6K combined or so, or 7K combined. So good discount. Beto, not really a pitcher to fear. He's a pretty extreme fly ball guy, which is kind of a recipe for disaster in this minor league ballpark or whatever they're playing in. I think it's a minor league ballpark. So Texas, I love pairing them with the Dodgers, getting that a lot. I think it's a very good stack that's going to be a little bit overlooked on this slate.
Yeah, small sample size, but on the year, 47.8% fly ball rate to lefties. Texas has some of those. 78% hard hit rate to lefties. So honestly, okay, here's the thing. This is something people need to consider a little bit more. Yes, the Athletics look great, and I do love the Athletics. And sure, there's the argument for leveraging with Corbin, right? The double leverage, as you say. The other thing to consider is a lot of times the chalk offense fails, and you know who doesn't fail? The team they're facing. So the Rangers discounted for sure, number one. Number two, they're in the same park the Athletics are in, and it's a hitter's paradise right now. So, and the other thing is they're not going to be nearly as owned. You have the Athletics are going to be more owned than them. You have possibly Dodgers garner some ownership. You have the Halos. You have the Royals. Just a lot of offenses that look really good. And Texas, I feel like might float, fly a little bit under the radar here. So I also am with you. I like Texas quite a bit. All right, that is going to do it for our game-by-game breakdown. If you want finalized pitcher picks and stacks that we like the most, you have to get access to our Patreon, just $5.99 a month. And if you do that, you also get our NBA DFS core plays every single day, plus UFL, MMA, and, of course, our Discord. So hop in and take advantage of that. That does it. Oh, actually, let's wrap it up real quick. If you have to do one stack and one pitcher to build around, who are you doing it with tonight? Great phrasing, I know.
Dodgers and over. Like the Dodgers are going to be owned for the environment, for the matchup they get against Imanaga. and for their talent. So I'm happy to do that. Ober being so cheap makes it pretty easy to do that. You have to make a concession with your other pitcher, which I'm prepared to do. But also, I just love stacking the Dodgers with Texas. It makes a lot of sense on this slate. And then punting the pitching. So we don't have a lot of high-end stuff anyway. It's not like we have aces on this slate. So I don't mind walking the plank with Patrick Corbin and Bailey Ober as a combo. I think you can do that even in single entry on this slate.
Yeah, and I think some of the a lot of the chalk looks really good. Bubic and Ober and the Athletics, that is good chalk. But I think kind of what the message you're sending is you got to do something to get different on this slate at some point. You're not going to win probably with both those pitchers and the Athletics unless you have Athletics nobody's on, or your secondary stack is super low owned and just goes nuclear. So you got to do something that gets you a little bit different and just at least spread that around if you're doing a lot of different lineups. So keep that in mind for sure. If I was going to do one thing here on the slate that does that, I think Texas stands out as the thing to do. I just think they look really good here in a good park, and I just don't think they're going to be owned. And then if you want to go attack somebody who is, who looks really good, and is going to be somewhat popular, but maybe not as popular as Athletics, I think the Angels stand out right away as well. All right, that is going to do it for us. Hopefully this helps you out. If it does, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and come visit us in Patreon. Thanks for watching, and good luck.